I have some giant red mustard volunteers popping up here, and that tells me it's time to plant my fall-winter garden, because this is the crop I usually plant in the fall and winter. I'll be putting most of my fall-winter garden plants in these cell starters, since I have them laying around. I usually like to use these solo cups where I've cut holes in the bottom of when I start plants. I'll be filling it with this Miracle-Gro potting soil. It's basically just peat moss with some fertilizer and wood chips added in. You can filter out the wood chips. I have this tray here that's already prepared. So I'll show how I prepare that with this tray. Just take something to filter the soil. Lay it down. Take your scoop of soil and filter it. I like to put gloves on when I do this because I don't like the feel of the screen. Just work the soil around on the screen. As you can see, it'll just fall into the cells. The reason to do this is you don't want to get these big chunks of wood in there. When I do the solo cups, I don't usually filter the soil. I just kind of put my finger into the center of it and just check for any large chunks, things that could get in the way of the seed. There you are. There's a piece that you don't want in there. There you have it. Another thing you can do, instead of using potting soil, it's usually recommended, you can just take some peat moss, mix it with some perlite, and you're good to go. Then you don't have to sift through it or anything. It doesn't have any real nutrients in it that way, but you don't really need it with starts. I usually like to have the fertilizer in there, because I have a tendency to leave these things in there longer than I should. I've never really had a problem using this potting soil though. Once you have all your cells filled, what you can do is take one and just kind of lightly tamp down each one, and like so. See, it creates a sort of a little crevice inside each cell for where your seeds are going to go. Once you have that, fill the bottom of the tray with water. This is a 1 quart pitcher I'm using. I'm just going to pour the whole thing in. You just let this sit for a day, and that will absorb all the water into the soil. You don't want to put this much water in it all the time. The reason why I'm using this much water this time is because the soil is dry. I've already got some of my fall winter stuff that you saw in the video planted out. So that's already sprouted and on its way. I'll be showing how I plant out my fall winter garden. I have a few extra things here that I didn't show in the last video. Basically, I just take the seeds here, put them in the cup for ease of getting to them. You label it. As far as labels go, you can use this, which is a paint pen. That holds up pretty well. As you can see on this one, and only the bottom part where it was touching the soil got worn down. And this is just an inlet from a reusable little grocery bag that I just cut up. Sharpies, you don't want to use these. They fade in the sun. You're not going to have your label by the end of the time you're still using it. The best thing to use are garden markers. These will not fade on you. In fact, some of the labels I already have from last year are still perfectly good. First thing I'm going to plant is this Ethiopian kale. I already have 2 rows of the stuff planted, or as it is, but I really like the stuff. It's very simple. This stuff you want to kind of surface sow. So you just sprinkle it in and see how tiny those seeds are. And then you just sort of pinch the soil a little bit just to agitate it a little bit. This is where you're indenting it, and it comes in handy. Water it in. And label it. The extra seeds we didn't use can just get poured back into the package. Next up are these marigolds, which I got from Baker Creek. Thing that you can do with marigolds. When you're planting, this is the top, and this is the bottom. You can check to see if the marigold is viable or not by just lightly tapping it on your finger. That one's so-so. Okay. So a bad one, you press it on your finger lightly, it will bend. So a good one will stay firm, like what you can see here. You just take them, you actually press them down into the soil. That one's good. See, when I press it, it stays. So just water it in. We got our label. Notice I'm adding the label to where the tray ends. So I know this is one tray, ends here, another tray, ends here, and I keep going on like that. This is a variety of pepper I've never really tried before. I don't know how they're going to do around this time of year, but give it a shot. See how the label says there. Growing season around February. I usually don't go by this. It's usually off, in my experience. See how it does. Peppers, you just one of the easier ones to grow. This particular variety, he seems to have rather big seeds for pepper. It's interesting. Indent it, make sure it's indented there, or just cover it over with a little bit of soil. Good. Again, we're indenting it first, just with the trays. These helps. Just make sure the seed is covered with the soil. You don't need to go very deep. This is another thing I haven't tried before, and this is kind of out of season for it, but give it a try anyway. A little bit of an experiment. Gold yarrow. The seeds on this thing are super small. I mean, that's almost like powder there. There's no way I'm going to get any kind of individual seed out of that. So I'll just scatter a little bit in each one. This is definitely going to be a surface, so one. I may not even want to cover anything up. Just try a little bit here. I'm sure this one, when the watering in, is going to be what's going to put it into the soil more than me agitating it. Okay, these seeds are so small I'm actually having trouble pouring them all back into the packet. So I'm just going to take the rest of these and scatter them around my garden and see what happens. So I decided to do an extra row of marigolds since I usually get maybe 50% germination, and even in the best conditions, and this package has been sitting around for a while. This is where it's pretty useful to have these cells that you can remove. So these are the ones I just planted. Now I just scooch these over. Move the marker. There we have it. The last thing to plant is this basil. I've never tried this particular variety before. This came as a free package when I bought some stuff from San Diego Seed Company. So we'll So we'll see how this goes. Seeds in basil are about the same size. I'd say maybe a little bit smaller than the Ethiopian kale, so we can probably plant about the same way. Try and get only a few in there. It's a fairly new package, so these should be fairly good. Basically plant them effectively the same way you would the kale. Lit. And water it in. And there you have it. Everything is planted up.